I'm joined here with Mr. Greg Plum and Greg Unruh, and we wanted to do a little series, like a fireside chat series, and just share some of our lessons learned, maybe some recommendations, some war stories, some battle scars that we've had over our career. And so we're going to be pulling up different topics, chatting with you guys, and just trying to get some conversations going. But one of the topics that I asked the guys to chat with me on is role-based partner pairing. Several years ago, whenever Greg Unruh and I met, he told me about this framework, this structure, this kind of method that he used in several different companies, smaller organizations, really, to help get revenue going. And I was absolutely fascinated by it. And what's been really intriguing is just over the last couple of years that we've moved deeper into this world of using tools, Crossbeam, for example, and near-bound methodologies and those things. It's interesting to see how these principles are being leveraged, but under different names. But Greg and I guess Greg and Greg, how are things going today? Good to see you guys again.
You too, Mark. Good to be here.
Yeah, going great.
Unruh, for those that might not be familiar with seeing any of the blogs that you've put out, I know there's been a lot of different folks that you've chatted with over the years sharing this methodology, but can you just give us the high-level frameworks of what role-based partner pairing is and why you developed it years ago?
Yeah, the golden rule in my mind is about awareness. If you're not top of mind, somebody else is. And so I've worked with a lot of organizations that whether they're lean in resource and capability or they're just simply looking to grow, one of the areas that we looked at was creating engagement. It really comes down to engagement. So role-based partner pairing, exactly as it sounds. We take particular roles and map them from partner A to partner B. So account executive to account executive, sales manager to sales manager, partner manager to partner manager, executive sponsor to executive sponsor. And we create these relationships and we create a cadence around it. So it goes hand in hand with role-based partner pairing, as well as a content management strategy. So we try to create conversation starters. But what it does is it creates an opportunity to have multiple levels of engagement and touches with that partner. And at the end of the day, that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where when you can get a rep-to-rep conversation going, develop that relationship, that's where your top of the funnel begins to cultivate, having those conversations. But a very high level, and what it really allowed us to do is some of the companies might be in a startup phase or maybe they're just entering into a partner strategy. So they don't have a fully baked team. And so you're able to leverage some of your internal resources. You don't need to go out and acquire other resources and roles and titles to come in and start doing this. You can actually leverage the resources you have in-house and begin to develop that strategy. And it goes very quickly, particularly when you wrap a content strategy around it. And what I mean by that is we create typically a 90-day biweekly content cycle. And I can queue up those topics. And the topics really don't matter. Yeah, you want to make them material and relevant to the partner, but mostly they're designed as conversation starters. Here's a reason it went out on this date. Pick up the phone and call your partner that you're paired with, and let's talk about that piece of content. And oh, by the way, while I have you on the phone, let's also talk about some of the other activity that we might be engaged with from a sales perspective. But at a high level, that's what it looks like.
Greg, whenever you're helping a company adopt role-based partner pairing, maybe some partner professionals or maybe some folks out there hearing this for the first time and they're getting ready to launch or have just launched a partnering program and they're thinking, man, that sounds like it's going to cost even more time. I don't even have enough time as it is, but now I'm going to have to work directly with all of these different companies. What would you say to somebody I don't even have enough time to do my work today and try to figure out how to get this program off the ground, but now I'm needing to make connections and have conversations with folks?
It's a great point. You hear it all the time on a direct sales organization. That's your farm team. You're actually converting a direct salesperson into kind of covertly into a channel account manager. And so there's a little bit of resistance there because, hey, I've got a quota. I've got a lot of transactional activity that I have to do. How do I carve out a percentage of time to do this? And it really comes down to conversion. And so when I've never met a direct salesperson that loves to make cold calls. They just don't exist. Maybe there's a handful out there, but at the end of the day, they begin to very quickly, as they develop those relationships, the deals that come through those relationships and a partner pairing structure have a much higher conversion rate, north of 50% versus a cold call, which is where they spend a lot of their cycles taking cold leads coming in from an SDR or BDR team or self-sourced. That takes a lot of effort, a lot of transactions, a lot of touches to get very minimal results, less than 1% typically. When they can develop that relationship, yes, it takes a little bit, carve out and dedicate some time to doing that, but you're going to see a conversion rate on those leads coming in are going to be north of 50% oftentimes. They very quickly begin to see that and see that, hey, it's worth the investment in developing those relationships to get higher quality deals, shorten my path to revenue, get higher qualified, but just makes a lot of sense. But they have to see it, and they pick it up pretty quickly.
So, Greg, I have a quick question for you. Are you finding among customers that you position this to, is there a certain demographic or size of customer where this is more effective than others?
Not really. Obviously, for a lean organization or a newer organization, it makes a ton of sense because they're resource constrained. But I rolled this out with large, very mature organizations because it is about maximizing your resources. It has a much greater impact for a smaller organization that's maybe lean and short on resources. But even for more mature organizations, the construct and the philosophy around that of creating multi-tiered engagement across multiple roles in the organization, it keeps you top of mind, whether you're large or small. And that's the race. That's my competitive juices. When I'm competing in different than sales, I'm competing for mind share because that partner has 10 other partners trying to get their attention. How do I get their attention? I get it through multiple levels of engagement and touches across various different roles. And we create those mappings and we create conversation starters. So it's not just a touch point where you're obligated to get on a call and do a standard touch point. We create conversation starters through content management that allows a meaningful topic to discuss, and then that leads into other conversations that oftentimes result in identifying new leads and opportunities.
So where would you say when you're starting to have these discussions with both the provider as well as the partner, where would you say the biggest lift is? Which ones get it right away and which ones maybe take a little bit of cajoling to take on this model?
That's funny. I equate it. I like baseball, and here in Kansas City, we're just entering into the playoffs. So we're pretty excited about that. But I use the analogy of a major and minor kind of farm system, if you will. And so when we roll this out into a sales organization, there are going to be some that pick up on it, and that's where, from my view, I'm analyzing what's the talent pool, how are they engaging in the process, and not everyone's going to glob onto it. But what happens is within that sales organization, you get a couple of folks that, hey, I'm going to give it a flyer. I'm going to roll with this. And that becomes and actually what it does, and I'm all over the board here, but for even a larger organization, that becomes a career path. And companies, and just going back to what you talked about, where does this align, large and small both? In a larger company, it's good to create alternate career paths for somebody to enhance and grow their career. I do that through role-based partner pairing, where I can get one or two of those folks in the sales team that glob onto it. I'll mentor, coach, work with them very closely so they can find success quickly. And then success breeds success. Once the sales team sees, hey, these two fellows over here are getting some success, they're getting top of the funnel activity, they're closing deals, people start asking, what's your secret sauce? How you doing this? I'm doing the role-based partner pairing. I'm investing some of my time in this. And it begins to spread organically through the sales organization. And over time, it takes over and it becomes a very productive strategy.
Well, Greg, we always say that the companies or our partners should just be an extension of our company. Whenever our partners, whenever we have great partners, they're an extension of our company. And I've seen in multiple organizations where you've put role-based partner pairing in there, and that's exactly what we see. is that they are just an extension of that organization. It's obvious that it works and it bears fruit, or you wouldn't have put it into so many companies over the last 8+ years that I've known each other.
Yeah, what I tell an account rep that's, curious about the program and maybe a little resistant, said, listen, if you could replicate yourself, I mean, you're doing cold calls, you're taking and processing deals that come in from your BDR team or SEO. Those are all cold touches, pretty low conversion. But if you could replicate yourself and get somebody else to help qualify and bring warm leads to you, wouldn't it be worth the investment and be a participant in some of that enablement that you do with a partner at your peer level? That's how you replicate and duplicate yourself to create additional top of the funnel lead activity for you. It's well worth the investment, and they pick up on it pretty quickly.
Awesome, gentlemen. I appreciate you guys sharing your thoughts. And like I said, we're going to have a lot more of these topics that we're going to be sharing with the group. So hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.